Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Hallmark. Hallmark competitor Great American Family puts Christ back in Christmas. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Coming from CNBC, Wonya Lucas is making big changes at the Hallmark channel. She's the new diverse CEO they brought in to replace the existing CEO at the Hallmark channel, Bill Abbott, who really knew what he was doing before Hallmark got criticism for not being diverse, inclusive, and woke enough. So he was fired and they brought in Wonya Lucas. But Wonya Lucas only lasted around 3 years. From Washington Examiner, Hallmark Media CEO who focused on diverse and inclusive storytelling, stepping down. So she's out, and not only is she out, 4 of her top executives were also let go. She was supposed to leave at the end of 2023. Her 4 top executives were told in the beginning of January they are being laid off. They're out of the company. Candace Cameron Bure, Hallmark's #1 star, left for Great American Family, and she goes into it a little bit here, but not in great detail about why she's actually left. Yes, it was a great opportunity for her, but the channel was getting too inclusive. The channel was removing faith and replacing it with what they call representation, really shallow things that focus on people that look like you, people that are part of the progressive agenda, LGBT themes, things that, of course, here and there could be part of the stories, but should never have been a focus for the Hallmark channel in place of having faith represented in stories. That's really why Candace Cameron Bure left. As you can tell from her article in the Wall Street Journal, Candace Cameron Bure wants to put Christianity back in Christmas movies. Here are some of the reasons she initially gave for leaving the channel, coming from Heavy.com. Candace Cameron Bure recently opened up about why she left a long-time relationship with Hallmark to join Great American Media. Great American Media, of course, was started by Bill Abbott, the former CEO of Hallmark, who was replaced by the diverse and amazing Wonya Lucas, who basically now has ruined the Hallmark brand. And now she doesn't even work there anymore. The chance at a larger executive role was a big part of the motivation, along with the timing of her contract negotiations with Hallmark. Bure's contract with Hallmark was expiring when Great American Family was just beginning. Abbott was formerly the CEO of the Hallmark channel. In an interview with Variety, Bure revealed that the timing worked out perfectly for her to leave Hallmark and join Great American Family. It just so happened that her contract was expiring when Great American Family started up, she said. So we did not start having those discussions until we were well into negotiations with Hallmark Channel for renewing. And as every business person knows, you've got to do what's right for contracts. It didn't work out with Hallmark, and so we started talking with Bill Abbott. She revealed that her contract doesn't include a set number of movies per year that she stars in, but it does involve her serving in an executive role off camera too. She's involved with creative development of the content to make sure that the Great American Family content has that positive feeling with faith and family that Hallmark used to be all about. Variety reported that unnamed sources told them Bure made about $1 million a year in Hallmark, and Great American Family was able to nearly double that. Her past with Abbott and his champion attitude for others also influenced her. Bure added that Abbott was the first person to hire her after she'd taken a long break from working in order to raise her kids. Quote, any mom knows that when they take a break from working, they're nervous to come back. If it's 10 years later or 20 years later, she told Variety. Quote, there's a real fear for a lot of people, so I felt like Bill gave me my first shot coming back into the business, and I will always be grateful to him for that. She said her long relationship with Abbott strongly influenced her decision. Quote, he's been a champion for others throughout his whole career, and that's what has made him an incredible president and CEO of a company. Because he knows he's not doing it himself. It takes a team, and it takes loyalty, and it takes people doing their best. I trust what Bill has done over the years, and that really means a lot to me. That's also why a move to Great American Family was a good move for me because of the long-standing relationship with Bill. But after that article, we got to really understand a little bit better from the Wall Street Journal. Candace Cameron Bure wants to put Christianity back in Christmas movies. Hallmark's former queen of the holidays is taking her act to a new and more conservative channel. My Heart wants to tell stories that have more meaning and purpose and depth. Candace Cameron Bure is on a fake snow-covered set shooting a church scene for her new holiday movie, A Christmas Present. When it comes time for her character to feel a sudden presence of God, a tech guy stands on a ladder waggling 2 plates of glass in front of a light to create a shimmering effect on her upturned face. The crew uses black electrical tape to outline the church's stained glass cross so it will pop on screen. Mrs. Bure works herself into tears for each take, asking the crew to play an emotional Christmas song again and again so she stays in the mood. Mrs. Bure isn't just selling a made-for-TV moment, but a Christian epiphany for the masses. In recent years, the actress has reigned as the secular Christmas rom-com queen of the Hallmark Channel. But she left the TV movie giant for a more sweeping role at Great American Family, an upstart cable channel that is positioning itself as the God and Country alternative for holiday entertainment. Quote, "My heart wants to tell stories that have more meaning and purpose and depth behind them," said Mrs. Bure. "I knew that the people behind Great American Family were Christians that loved the Lord and wanted to promote faith programming and good family entertainment. Christmas movies on the small screen represent a booming business generating at least $500 million in ad revenue each year, according to industry analysts. And that $500 million a year is because of Bill Abbott and the way he was able to incredibly grow the Hallmark Channel. It was a business when he got there. It was a massive, massive business when he left. These days, the genre that Hallmark pioneered is everywhere, from major streaming platforms like Netflix to more niche channels like the Food Network and HGTV. While the movies may differ, most share an abiding reluctance to dwell on Christianity. Great American Family enters the scene with the opposite point of view. With a name that conjures red state pride and content that embraces faith, the channel is presenting itself as the choice for Christians who think Hollywood is ruining Christmas. Mrs. Bure, a former child star best known as DJ Tanner from Full House, is the religious influencer who serves as its face. "Spiritual or faith-based content is grossly underserved," said Bill Abbott, Chief Executive Officer of Great American Media, who oversees the new network. When he discussed this channel on a podcast from the lifestyle site Family Savvy recently, he referred to the entertainment business as a sewer. The former chief executive of Hallmark Channel parent company Crown Media Family Networks, Mr. Abbott has helped guide Mrs. Bure's career for 15 years. Great American Family, then called GAC Family, launched as a rebranded network in 2021. Discovery Incorporated sold the country music and lifestyle outlet Great American Country to a company formed by Mr. Abbott with Hicks Equity Partners. The company is owned by the family of Thomas Hicks Jr., co-chairman of the Republican National Committee. Mr. Abbott said the firm owns a small minority stake in the business and that the channel doesn't take any political positions. The channel's formula is what Mr. Abbott calls soft faith. A Christian message, he said, is there for viewers who are looking for it, but it doesn't aim to proselytize. Great American Family also offers holiday films that follow conventional secular storylines. The New York advertising hotshot who falls in love while trying to sell the family farm. The luxury travel blogger who stumbles into romance at a bed and breakfast and the like. In a Christmas present, Mrs. Bure's go-getter real estate agent, Maggie, has hit a bumpy patch in her marriage. With her husband and her 2 children, she visits her brother Paul, a recent widower, whose late wife brought him into the church's fold. Paul repeatedly praises Christianity to his stressed-out sister, certain that he'll be reunited with his wife in the afterlife and grateful to his faith for getting him through the loss. Quote, "One of God's greatest gifts, and it doesn't require rapping," he says. Mr. Abbott has hired Hallmark talent, including stars Danica McKellar, best known as Winnie Cooper from The Wonder Years, and Full House alum Lori Loughlin. Ms. Loughlin played Aunt Becky on the show Full House and spent 2 months in prison for her part in a 2019 nationwide college admissions scheme. Bill Abbott called her America's sweetheart regardless of what happened. Mrs. Bure's participation in the network, he said, was essential. Quote, "For me, she's the key piece of what we're doing," he said. In her book, Reshaping It All, Mrs. Bure described the period between child stardom and her adult career as difficult. She often felt isolated, dropped in random cities to follow future husband Val Bure, a Russian-American professional hockey player, as he pursued his career. In the midst of this loneliness, she developed an eating disorder. Her binging and purging started in Montreal while living unmarried with Mr. Bure, quote, "as a good Christian girl ought not to do. I ran to comfort food instead of running to God." She reached out to her brother Kirk Cameron, a former child star from the sitcom Growing Pains, who directed her to The Way of the Master, a book by Christian author Ray Comfort. After reading it, she too became a vocal Christian. Using their sitcom names, Mr. Cameron said he felt humbled that God, quote, "can even use Mike Seaver to nudge DJ Tanner to love the Lord with all her heart, mind, soul, and strength." Ms. McKellar said her life changed dramatically thanks to both Mr. Abbott, who revived her career, and Mrs. Bure, who gave her a Candace Cameron Bure branded Bible and took her to a Palm Sunday Passion play. After that, she found her faith, a religious journey she shares on the network's app. Quote, "We're really here to spread joy and to spread love and happy, good feelings," she said of the channel's mission. Mrs. Bure is skilled at melding her perky personal brand with her outspoken style of Christianity, a mix she calls Mind Style on her website. On social media, she promotes her QVC fashion collection one minute, quotes scripture the next. Her Bibles come in beachy colors. She does her own twist on TikTok memes, like the one where she dances on a leotard and cat nose while pretending to kick Satan in the crotch. At Great American Family, Ms. Bure is now the Chief Creative Officer, which allows her to produce religious titles under the, quote, Candace Cameron Bure Presents banner. She is involved in content creation and curation across many genres. For this season, Mrs. Bure produced a secular film, quote, Christmas on Candy Cane Lane, starring former Full House castmate Andrea Barber. Quote, "I'm so happy to have Candace be my guiding light," Ms. Barber said. "I thanked her every single day." Mrs. Bure was born in Los Angeles to Robert and Barbara Cameron. She began auditioning by 5 years old and soon landed small sitcom roles and TV ads. In 1987, at the age of 10, she got her break on Full House, which starred Bob Saget as widower Danny Tanner raising his 3 daughters with the help of his brother-in-law and his best friend. On the sitcom, she played DJ, the eldest Tanner sister, until the show's finale in 1995. After a decade of motherhood, she returned to acting in 2008 with her first Hallmark movie, followed by more TV roles and a turn on Dancing with the Stars. In 2016, she reprised DJ on Fuller House, which ran for 5 seasons. By then, she was well into her Christmas movie career. Quote, "I knew she was going to grow up and run the world someday, and she's getting close to it," said John Stamos, who played Uncle Jesse on Full House. Even as a child star, he said, she was an old soul. Mrs. Bure became a co-host on The View in 2015. While on the daytime talk show, her opinions made her a cultural lightning rod. In one episode, for example, she defended an Oregon bakery that refused to make a same-sex couple a wedding cake. Quote, "We do have the right to still choose who we associate with," she said. In 2016, she announced her exit from the show. The myth about making these cakes that people don't often discuss is that it's not about making a cake and just putting someone's name on it. The cake is art. If they're creating a cake, if you want to pick up a cake from a shelf, it's one thing. If you want to force someone to creatively express themselves, that's not allowed. That's protected by the Supreme Court. That's protected by the Constitution. You can't force someone to do a creative service because that is forced speech. It's much more important than whether or not someone gets a cake. Mr. Abbott, who brought her into the holiday movie world, is also no stranger to the culture wars. During his tenure at Hallmark, which was marked by tremendous growth, the channel drew criticism that its programming was too slow to embrace diversity. Then in late 2019, Mr. Abbott refused to air commercials for the wedding planning site Zola that featured brides kissing, sparking outrage and sending hashtag boycott Hallmark trending on Twitter. Now that's not exactly what happened. What happened was the commercials aired, viewers objected to the same-sex presentation, and Hallmark announced, "Look, this is controversial. We don't run controversial things on Hallmark. Get back to us when it's not controversial." However, Hallmark apologized to viewers and reinstated the ads. Mr. Abbott left the network soon after without explanation. Mr. Abbott said the timing was coincidental and he left in search of a new challenge. Mrs. Bure declined to discuss her departure from Hallmark beyond saying, quote, "It's basically a completely different network than when I started because of the change of leadership." A spokeswoman for Hallmark emphasized the network's commitment to storytelling that reflects diverse perspectives. Quote, "We want all viewers to see themselves in our programming and everyone is welcome," the spokesman said. That's the whole point. Having people see themselves is not good storytelling. Representation is not storytelling. Good stories that we can relate thematically to as human beings. For example, you can tell stories about trees. Trees with human characteristics, cartoon characters with human characteristics, Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse. These characters, those stories don't have to look like us. We don't look like Mickey Mouse. We never did. That's the scam of representation. Great American Family pushes both Mr. Abbott and Mrs. Bure deeper into culturally conservative territory as other networks are taking steps to trumpet diversity. Asked if she expects her new channel to feature same-sex couples leads in holiday movies, Mrs. Bure said no. I think that Great American Family will keep traditional marriage at the core. Mr. Abbott was vague in his thoughts on the subject. Quote, it's certainly the year 2022, so we're aware of the trends, he said. Mrs. Bure's channel switch comes with risks. The small network isn't included in many basic cable packages, and it lacks an exclusive streaming platform. They've since merged with PureFlix in a deal with Sony, so they do have a streaming platform now. Its primetime audience is a fraction of Hallmark's, drawing roughly 330,000 live total viewers for the premiere of Destined at Christmas, compared with 1.89 million who tuned in for Hallmark's, quote, We Wish You a Merry Christmas. If you just Google Great American Family, you'll find where you can watch any of their shows. Mrs. Bure, a mother of 3 who lives with her husband in Malibu, California, said she hopes all viewers can appreciate her movie's message, which calls for people to slow down and savor moments with loved ones. Quote, I want to be able to tell that story in a beautiful way, but also that is not off-putting to the unbeliever or someone who shares a different faith, she said. At first, the set of A Christmas Present looks like that of a typical holiday movie, fulfilling the industry's unofficial rule requiring Christmas in every frame. 2 crew members lay down the snow outside the church, actually a white ground cover under fluffy bits of white paper. One carries a bucket patrolling for bald spots. For falling snow, they use a bubble machine whose output resembles flurries on screen. In the pivotal scene that the production is shooting, Mrs. Bure's Maggie, who avoids religion, rushes to church to deliver a pie. That's when she experiences a revelation. The crew grapples with what they call, quote, godlight, or the flickering beam that comes during Mrs. Bure's spiritual interlude. A crew member objects when the light gets too bright too fast. Quote, that's a little hallelujah-ish, he says. A producer fixes the heavy church door, whose jarring slam keeps killing the vibe. Mrs. Bure said the channel gave her the freedom to make a holiday movie that wasn't a rom-com, dispensing with the snowball fights, peppermint cocoa snuggles, and other tropes. Quote, my own kids have said, Mom, are you leaving the big city and going to the farm, meeting the love of your life? Adding that she still plans to appear in those types of movies in the future. Those are all fun things that we love, but we see over and over and over. Great American Family is preserving what Hallmark is trying to destroy. They have a fantastic CEO. They've got a great asset in Candace Cameron Bure. I'm glad to see alternative independence upholding values and standards so we can keep the great content going. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you want to subscribe to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.